So today we're going to get into lesson 7.4, talking about approximating square roots, and there will also be some cube roots that we will discuss about approximating as well. So before we get into that, there are some vocab words that we need to discuss as far as different types of numbers. Some of these you might have heard of before, some maybe not, but they are rational number, irrational number, and real number. So a number that can be written as the ratio of two integers is a rational number. Integers, remember, are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all like whole numbers. Okay, numbers that are not decimals, aren't fractions. They're all 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, like that. And they also can be negative as well, -1, -2, -3, and so on. So that is a rational number, a ratio, or basically it can be written as a fraction. Irrational number is a number that cannot be written as a ratio of two integers, meaning you cannot write it as a fraction. Okay, you cannot write it as a fraction. And then real numbers is the set of all rational and irrational numbers together. So that's basically all numbers that you would know of. There are things called imaginary numbers that you'll hear about in high school, but for now, real numbers are basically any numbers you can think of at this stage in your math. So, an important note to understand with rational and irrational numbers: rational numbers either have a terminating, meaning comes to an end, decimal, or repeating decimal. So that means like whenever you have the number, it might come to an end, like it might be 0.435, and that's it, like it stops. Or it, like that would be considered rational, or it repeats, so like 0.333333 forever. Or like it can repeat multiple numbers, like 0.348, 348, 348, 348. That is also repeating. So rational numbers either have terminating decimal, meaning it comes to a stop, or a repeating decimal. Irrational numbers in decimal form do not terminate or repeat. So it's just a bunch of random numbers that go on forever. For example, an example of a irrational number would be pi, 3.14159, and it goes on forever. It does not terminate and does not repeat. So that is an irrational number. Another one is this, let me make sure, the square root of 2. Okay, so like if I put in my calculator, square root of 2, 1.4142135562. Again, that does not terminate, does not repeat, so that would be considered irrational as well. So that's what it's talking about whenever it's talking about irrational numbers. So that's just a little background before we get into the type of things they want us to do in this section. The first one that we're going to talk about is, like it said in the title of this section, approximating square roots, and is also approximating cube roots. So number 1 says estimate square root of 71 to the nearest integer and tenth. Okay, so there's going to be two parts they want here. They want us to round to the nearest integer and also to the nearest tenth. So first of all, you need to know what the square root of 71 equals. So that's simple. You just plug in your calculator, 71, hit square root, and you'll see what comes up is 8.4261, and then there's a bunch of numbers behind this. Okay? So first of all, you'll see that this is irrational. It's not rational because it does not repeat and it does not terminate. But what they want here is just to round to the nearest integer and the nearest tenth. So you got to remember how to do your rounding. So to round, for example, nearest integer means the nearest whole number, or the number right in front of that decimal. So if I'm rounding to there, I need to look at the number behind that number, and it will tell me if it's 4 or lower, I stay the same. If it's 5 or higher, I go up. So here I see that the 4 behind is 4 or lower, so therefore I'm going to keep this 8 the same. So that means to the nearest integer, square root of 71 is just 8. Okay, so then part B, it says round to the nearest tenth. So nearest tenth, my tenth spot is right there. So again, I have to look at the number behind it. So the number behind it is a 2, so again that tells me to stay the same, so that means I'm staying the same right here and cutting everything off behind it. So to the nearest tenth, 8.4. 8.4. Okay, let's look at part B, or number 2. So number 2, estimate the cube root, it's got the 3 in the corner, estimate the cube root of 110 to the nearest integer and tenth. So again, 110, I'm going to plug in my calculator. If you've got a TI-30XA, you hit second 0, and that will bring up your cube root of 110, which is 4.7914 ... keeps going. Okay, so again, nearest integer, this is my integer spot. That means I look at the number behind it. So this number behind the 4 is a 7. So remember, 7 is 5 or higher, so that means I go up. So that means it's telling me to make my integer go up. So since that's 7 or 5 or higher, I make that go up 1 to 5. So round us to the nearest integer. The cube root of 110 is 5. So then we round to the nearest tenth. Here's my tenth spot. I look at the number behind it. 9, again, will tell me to go up. So that means the number right here, the tenth spot, is what goes up by 1. So instead of 4.7, it now rounds up to 4.8. Okay? So that's how we're rounding in this section. You got to make sure you understand how to round. I know it's simple, but I still have students, and I've seen students who get that confused sometimes. So, I want you to try this one on your own. Okay, so pause the video, try it, and then we will talk about it. Okay? Hopefully you had a second to try these out. So this first one, square root of 24. When I type that in my calculator, I get 4.89897 Okay? So if I'm rounding to the nearest integer, here's my integer spot, and I look at the number behind it. 4.8, that 8 is 5 or higher, so it tells me to go up. So part A, when 4 is rounded up, it goes to 5. And I look at my tenth. If I'm rounding to the 10th spot, I look at the number in the 10th spot, and then look at the number behind it to tell me what to do. So the number behind is 9, so 9 tells me to round up. So that means my number in the 10th spot rounds up from 8 to 9, so that is 4.9. Okay, so we have the second one. We've got the cube root of 381. So I'll type in 381, find its cube root, 7.2495 ... because it keeps going. Okay, so again, integer, there's my integer spot. Look at the number behind it is 2. So 2 is 4 or lower, so it tells me to stay the same. So 7 does not round up, and it stays as 7. Next, we look at if we're rounding to the 10th spot, we underline the 10th spot, look at the number behind it. The number behind is 4, so 4 or lower means stay the same. So instead of going up to 3, that stays a 2, so it is 7.2 when rounded to the 10th spot. Alright, so hopefully we understand that. That's the main thing with that part, is understanding how to round to the nearest tenths or integer or whatever spot they ask of. They'll also give you problems like this where they want you to make sure you can put square roots or cube roots on a number line. So here it says, place the following on an individual number line with integers as the intervals. So I'm going to make me a number line, and it wants integers as the intervals. So first, before I can even figure out what my intervals are going to be, I know they're going to be, I might just make 4 of them or something like that. but I need to know what the square root of 8 is. So I type in square root of 8, and I know that it is 2.8284 ... So integers as intervals mean that I know that one of them is 2. So I'm just going to start at like 1 and then go 2, 3, 4. Those will be my intervals. So the main thing here is you're obviously not going to be able to get it right on the dot where it needs to be. But you do need to make sure it's in the right vicinity or right location of close to where it should be. Because like if I'm on this number line, 2.8 means, like if I know it's going to be, if it's 2.82, I know it's between 2 and 3. But if I place it like right here, that would not be right. Because we know 2.8 is going to be way closer to 3 than it is to 2. So just by understanding that, 2.8 will be much closer over here. That is where I need to place the square root of 8. So the square root of 8 would fall close to 3, because we know right in between them, right at the halfway point, is 2.5. So we know that's much further this way. 2.8 is much further to the right from 2.5. So that is how we get to that point. And I've seen state test questions like this where they want you to put square roots on a number line. So make sure you understand the process of doing this. So let's look at the next one. We have the cube root. So let me draw another number line. The cube root of 270. So again, I'll plug in 270, find its cube root, and that is 6.463 ... So I know that we have 6.4, that's going to be between 6 and 7. So I'll just make the number line 6, 7, 8, 9. So again, 6.46, 6.46 means it's going to be very close to the halfway point of 6 and 7 because it's really close to 6.5. So like if you were to put it really close to 6 or really close to 7, that would not be right. So you need to know, like my halfway point is about right there. And actually it's probably about right there. So that's about my halfway point. So if I have 6.46, I know it's just going to be right to the left of that halfway point. It's going to be a little closer to 6 than it will 7. So that means my dot should go right about there. Okay, so that would be your cube root of 270. So that is what we're doing in this part. We're trying to find where on that number line you would place that square root or cube root. Alright, I want you to try these ones on your own. So pause the video, try this out. Hopefully you've had time to try these. So the first one, 71, its square root is 8.426 ... So we know it's going to be between 8 and 9. So I'll just start at 7, 8, 9, 10. So again, I'm looking at that tenths place really to see where it falls on that number line. So 8.4 is pretty close to the middle in between 8 and 9. So if we have my middle spot right there, we know it's going to be close to it, but just a little closer to 8 than it would be to 9. Excuse me, I got the hiccups. So that means right here would be about where that point would be. So that is my square root of 71. Okay, let's look at the next one. square root of 13. I'm going to plug in my calculator. Square root of 13 is 3.605 ... So again, I'll just label these 3, 4, 5, 6. So 3.6, looking at that 10th spot, we know that's close to the middle, between 3 and 4. But this time it's going to be a little closer to 4, because we know middle is 3.5, so 3.6 is just a little closer to 4. So that would leave my point to be right about there for square root of 13. Okay, last one. We have cube root of 685. And that equals 8.815 ... Okay, so I'll make my number line with integers. So here we have 8.8. So 8.8 tells me it's going to be pretty close to 9, okay? It's not going to be, so like if this is my halfway point, it's not going to be near the halfway point. It's going to be closer to 9. So that means my point would be right about there. So that is your cube root of 685. Okay, so that covers this section. The main points you need to remember are, first of all, make sure you understand how to round whenever you are given square roots, whether it be to the integer, the 10th, whatever. You need to make sure you can round correctly. And then you also want to make sure you can put square roots on number lines in the correct spot, because like I said, I've seen state test questions like that. That is a topic you also need to be able to do. So hopefully this video helped. Thanks for watching.